Hello, my name is Emily Ditton. Welcome to this RDC Energy Insights Brainshark. I am the global lead for RDC's mining sector research and our oil and gas and utilities research in the Asia Pacific region. And what I'd like to do for the next half an hour or so is talk to you about the way that we're seeing organisations in the ASEAN region responding to the drive for transformation and the need to create competitive differentiation with oil and gas and mining markets. So first, to look at what the transformational drivers are across the oil and gas sector and the mining sectors within the Asia Pacific region, I wanted to look at what some of the senior leaders are saying about the challenges their organisations are facing. So first, Ahmad Zaki Ridwan, who is the country manager of DNV in Indonesia, and he concentrates on challenges relating to inefficiencies within the organisation and the need to focus on simplicity and the ecosystem. So if we look at Andrew Mackenzie, the CEO of BHP Billiton, and he talks about the need for extreme efficiency, and particularly from learning from other industries, especially the approaches in place within the manufacturing sector. And last of all, Dr. Syamsu Alam, the upstream director of Pertamina. Pertamina is very focused on driving down costs and increasing output within the transformational agenda that's been developing for them. And so across all of the focus areas of these organisations, we see themes of efficiencies and simplicity particularly. And this is in the context, though, of seeking to maximise production through much more effective resource allocation. And in order to do that, data insight and integrated operations is a really critical part of being able to achieve these outcomes. So there are three overarching trends that resources companies operating within the ASEAN region are facing. The first of all is that market capitalisation is reducing, causing companies to place a really heavy focus on profit margins and particularly to look for new ways of doing things. The second is that production levels are declining across the sector within this region. Legacy oil fields and mature wells mean that oil output is declining, and this is leading to a requirement for an increase in infrastructure spending, which is affecting the ability to invest in other parts of the business. And thirdly, demand is increasing. Across the region, growing economies are driving demand for energy, and particularly for national oil and gas companies, the ability to deliver against this demand in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines and Thailand are a really heavy focus of the strategic priorities that those companies have. So across these market conditions, the capacity to create data insights across IT and operational technology systems particularly, and to digitise based on world-chosen technologies is a really major part of what companies need to be doing to find new ways of doing things and to respond to the dynamics in the marketplace. Across the ASEAN region, companies that are responding to these market dynamics are really looking at the transformational agendas that they need to be having in place. And this is very heavily focused on creating competitive differentiation through operational excellence, looking at how to create visibility and control across the business in a way that will deliver efficiency through the much more effective allocation of resources, and integrating the business in order to maximise revenue. And so what does IDC's survey work say about the transformational priorities that oil and gas and resources companies within the ASEAN region have? We know that it tells us that 47% of ASEAN resources companies believe that IT is transformational for them. 47% of resources companies in the AP region believe that DX will create competitive advantage, and 66% of oil and gas and mining companies within the ASEAN region believe that information and operating model transformation is a critical priority. And we'll talk a little bit further on about what that actually means. So just to draw out the priorities that a couple of these organisations have within this region. First of all, Pertamina. Pertamina has launched a really heavy transformational agenda, overhauling its organisational functions with a heavy focus on efficiency. In one of these initiatives, particularly looking at hydrocarbon procurement processes, the initiatives have yielded 91 million in efficiency savings for the organisation. And second of all, Petronas. Petronas has been driving a heavy transformational agenda that has a three-pronged approach, which is looking at corporate restructuring, at reducing costs and improving performance, highlighting a number of the themes that we've already been looking at so far. And so I mentioned that digital transformation is fundamentally enabled by third platform technologies, and those are the technologies and platforms and solutions built around mobility, cloud, big data analytics and social. And then we also have the innovation accelerator technologies, and those are the technologies that fundamentally enable value creation overlaid on third platform technologies. And IDC has called out 6 innovation accelerator technologies, including robotics, natural interfaces, 3D printing, IoT, cognitive and next generation security. And all of these technologies are fundamentally critical to the way that we're seeing organisations within oil and gas and mining companies understand and drive their digital transformation initiatives. Before I get stuck into looking at the way that we're seeing the transformational agenda across mining and oil and gas companies develop in the ASEAN region and what that means for those organisations, I wanted to take just a moment to look at how IDC thinks about digital transformation and what we think it actually means. So, at an overarching level, digital transformation is the continual process by which organisations seek to utilise digital capabilities in order to drive organisational, operational and business model transformation and to respond to the disruption that they're seeing in their industries, seeking to create competitive differentiation. There are a number of elements about digital transformation. First of all, that it's absolutely something that is a board level mandate and must be driven from the top. It is driven by the requirements of line of business, and it is fundamentally built around the capability of the third platform. But at IDC, we look at digital transformation as being made up of 5 different parts. And so first of all, leadership transformation. And so I mentioned that digital transformation is a mandate from the top. And so leadership in order to succeed with transformation, leadership must be able to understand technology choices to the extent that they understand the implications of the technology strategy for the business strategy, and able to create that vision and drive it down into the organisation. Omni-experience transformation is the process by which we transform the engagement and channels to the customer and to create personalisation and deliver industry-leading customer experience to our customers, whether that be in B2B or consumer markets. Information transformation and operating model transformation are 2 parts of digital transformation that are really interrelated and have been the focus areas of investment to date in the digital transformation initiatives that organisations have. Information transformation is about the way that we place data at the centre of the business and build the capacity to create insight and visibility around that data. And so organisations that are mature in their digital transformation initiatives typically treat data as an asset and are able, very often, seeking to commercialise that data with other stakeholders in the market. And operating model transformation is the way that we automate process and things across our operations. This is very much about the way that technologies like IoT are being deployed, but also AVVR and other technologies that enable the automation of processes and the interconnection of automated things and people within the delivery of operational processes. And last of all, we have work source transformation. And this is not just about the way that we build the capabilities and the skills required to deliver the transformation. It's also an outside-in. There's also an outside-in element to it, in which organisations really need to be ensuring that they are bringing in capabilities from external parties like universities and industry bodies, but also automating and creating platforms for the way that contract capabilities and external parties are incorporated within the delivery of work within organisational operations. So what does digital transformation mean for resources companies? For mining and oil and gas companies, digital transformation is all about the data. It is about being able to access it and then utilise it in such a way that drives insight and control across the organisation and changes the roles and the processes that are undertaken in the operation across the organisation. But there are three ways that we think that digital transformation will most impact oil and gas and mining companies. First of all, in relation to the manufacturisation of operations. And this is really about achieving a step change in efficiency through the integration of IT and operational data and systems. But also there is a significant organisational and cultural element to this, and particularly driving innovation and ongoing improvement across the organisation. Second of all, competitive differentiation through technology strategy. This is really about our view that the basis of competitive differentiation is really changing for oil and gas and mining companies. And what we're seeing is that oil and gas and mining companies are placing technology strategy much more centrally in the way that they create viable operational projects and the way that they compete for resources and assets. And last of all, process simplification, integration and automation. There is a very heavy requirement for driving process simplification across the organisation. And this is really starting with simplification of IT, the simplification of applications across IT and operations. And then also, and importantly, the simplification of processes and operations as organisations seek to really be able to drive the transformation across their organisations. So I wanted to look at some examples of where we're seeing the technologies across IDC's innovation accelerators being deployed within the mining sector and the impact that that is creating. So if we look across 6 of the top innovation accelerators applied to the mining sector across 3D printing, IoT, cognitive systems, natural interfaces, AR/VR, robotics and next-gen security. What we're seeing is that IoT is a very heavy area of focus, particularly in relation to the way that the OEM equipment providers, in the context of mining, for example, Caterpillar and Komatsu, are seeking to provide services, particularly maintenance services around their equipment and engage with the systems of mining companies relating to that. There's a very heavy focus around this in the mining sector right now. Another key area of focus is around natural interfaces and AR/VR. This is an area that is just developing, but certainly training, simulation and construction areas are a very heavy area of use case for natural interfaces and AR/VR. And what we're seeing in relation to security is that mining companies and oil and gas companies are increasingly placing security as, for many boards, one of the key technology areas that are actively monitored and managed at a board level in the deliberation that the board undertakes. So what success factors do oil and gas and mining companies operating in the ASEAN region need to be thinking about as they build out their transformational agendas? First of all, transformation is a business-led initiative and needs to start at the top. Second of all, partners are absolutely critical. So, thinking about the IT as an ecosystem is a really important part, and building partnerships where both the supplier and the oil and gas company have skin in the game is critical. Looking beyond our return on investment metrics is really important. At some point, transformation is about having a vision for the future, and that's something that all organisations need to think about. You need to know where you're trying to get to, but you also need to be able to deliver value quickly at each step along the way. Funding from efficiency improvements is important, and if you're not actually improving the way that you're doing things and looking for a new way of undertaking a process, then it's not transformation. And before I finished off, I just wanted to spend a moment to talk about IDC's capability and capacity to support events for senior decision makers across oil and gas and mining sectors within the ASEAN region. IDC undertakes energy-focused events with senior decision makers in a collaborative setting. So these events are typically held in a 5-star hotel or a very nice restaurant. And typically it's a half-day roundtable which enables peer-to-peer collaboration within the context of